The wine glass trembled in my hand as I stood before 50 expectant faces. My mother's smug smile cut through the restaurant's warm glow, certain her trap had worked perfectly. 3 days earlier, she'd announced to the entire world that I was giving my sister a $400,000 apartment, something I'd never agreed to. Now, surrounded by family and friends gathered for Claire's graduation celebration, I was supposed to hand over my inheritance with a smile. I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of every eye upon me. I thought a lot about Claire's graduation gift this week, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. And I decided not to give her anything. The collective gasp that followed was so strong it seemed to suck the oxygen from the room. Mom's face drained of color. My sister froze mid-smile. And in that moment, as I pulled out my phone and pressed play, I knew nothing would ever be the same again. But to understand how I ended up here, you need to know where this story really begins. 24 years ago, when I was 10 years old and my whole world collapsed in a single day. I was wobbling on my bike in our backyard, my dad's warm hand steadying the seat as I fought to maintain balance without training wheels. "You've got it, sweetheart. Just keep pedaling." His voice was encouraging, patient, the voice that had guided me through every important moment of my childhood. His laugh was warm and proud when I finally rode those 10 feet without falling. I remember turning to see his face, wanting to capture that look of pride forever. 24 hours later, he was gone. Heart attack. No warning, no goodbye, just the sudden, suffocating absence of the person who'd been my entire world. Mom fell apart. I did too, in my own quiet way. The house that had once felt like a sanctuary became a tomb of memories, silent except for Mom's muffled sobs at night. A year later, she married Rick. I tried to be happy for her. She was smiling again, and I thought maybe that meant I could start smiling too. Maybe we could be a family again, different but whole. Then, when I was 12, Mom had Claire. The shift wasn't gradual. It was immediate and absolute. From the moment they brought that tiny bundle home from the hospital, I became invisible, a ghost in my own home. "Samantha, can you watch Claire while I take a shower?" Mom would ask every morning. "Samantha, the dishes need doing," Rick would add without looking up from his newspaper. "Samantha, Claire needs her bottle," Mom would call from another room. It wasn't just babysitting or normal chores. By 13, I was doing laundry, cooking meals, cleaning bathrooms, tasks that belonged to adults, not children. My grades suffered because I was always exhausted. I had no friends because I never had time to make any. My childhood wasn't just over, it had been stolen from me, one dirty dish and diaper change at a time. Then my grandmother came to visit. Grandma Margaret was my dad's mother, sharp-eyed, straight-backed, and unafraid to speak hard truths. She watched how Mom and Rick treated me for about an hour before pulling Mom into the kitchen. I was sitting on the couch, holding Claire while she napped, when their voices carried from the kitchen. "Linda, that girl is miserable," Grandma said, her voice cutting through the pretense. "It's just hard with the baby, Margaret." "I need Samantha's help," Mom replied, defensive. "She's not your servant. She's your daughter." A pause. "Look at her, Linda. When's the last time you saw that child smile?" The silence that followed felt heavy, pregnant with uncomfortable truths. "I don't know what you want me to do," Mom finally said. "I can't be in 2 places at once. Let her come live with me." Another pause. Then I heard Rick's voice, and what he said next crushed whatever was left of my 12-year-old heart, that might actually work better. My own stepfather sounded relieved at the idea of getting rid of me. When Mom emerged from the kitchen, she looked at me sitting there with Claire and asked, "Samantha, honey, would you like to go live with Grandma Margaret for a while?" I didn't hesitate. Yes. I still remember Rick's smile when I said it. Mom just nodded, like she'd expected that answer all along. I packed my stuff that same day, just clothes and a few books. I left behind the room that had never really felt like mine anyway, walking out without looking back. Living with Grandma was like stepping into a different universe. Her apartment was filled with books from floor to ceiling, she was a college literature professor, and her home felt like a sanctuary of knowledge and quiet dignity. On my first day there, she sat me down at her kitchen table, placed a cup of hot chocolate in front of me, and said something I'll never forget: "You don't have to clean my house, Samantha. That's my job. Your job is to be a kid and do well in school." It felt impossible. No one yelling for diapers or dishes. No one treating me like an inconvenience. Grandma actually seemed happy to have me there. For months later, she sat me down for another conversation that would change everything. "I've officially adopted you, sweetheart. Your mother signed over her parental rights." I stared at her, not understanding. "What does that mean?" "It means you're legally my daughter now. This is your home for as long as you want it to be." Part of me felt crushed. My own mother had given up on me that easily. But another part felt something I hadn't experienced in years: relief. I was safe now. I belonged somewhere. My grades improved dramatically. I made friends. I devoured every book in Grandma's collection, falling in love with stories and words. For the first time since Dad died, I felt like I mattered to someone. I rarely saw Mom, Rick, and Claire after that. When I did visit for holidays, it was painfully obvious they were happier without me. They'd be polite, but I could see the relief in their eyes when I left. Mom would post dozens of photos of Claire on Facebook, never one of me. So I stopped visiting altogether. What was the point? I graduated high school with honors, went to college on scholarships, and earned my degree in communications. Grandma cried when they called my name at graduation. After college, I landed a job in public relations and moved into my own apartment. That's when Mom suddenly wanted to reconnect. "Samantha, honey, I think we should start fresh. Put the past behind us." I was curious enough to give it a try. We started meeting for holidays: Christmas, Thanksgiving, Claire's birthday. I'd bring expensive gifts for Claire, who was a teenager by then. Mom and Rick would nod approvingly, like I was fulfilling my role as the generous big sister. Claire never seemed particularly grateful, but I told myself she was just a kid. She'd warm up eventually. This went on for years. We had what I thought was a decent relationship, not close, but civil. I thought we were building something real. Then last year, Grandma died. She was 89 and had lived a full life, but losing her shattered me. She'd been my only real parent, the person who saved me from a childhood of servitude and gave me the foundation to build a life I could be proud of. At the reading of her will, I learned she'd left me her apartment and $150,000. I also discovered something that floored me: she'd owned the house where Mom and Rick had been living for over 2 decades. Apparently, after Dad died, she'd let them stay there out of kindness, but it had never actually been their house. I didn't know what to do with that information, so I decided to leave things as they were. Mom never brought it up, and neither did I. When Mom asked if Claire could live in Grandma's apartment rent-free while she finished college, I said yes. It seemed like the right thing to do. Everything seemed fine. We were a functional family, or so I thought. Then came that phone call 3 weeks ago. "Hi, Mom. What's up?" I balanced my phone against my shoulder, still reviewing work documents. "Samantha, honey, I'm calling about Claire's graduation gift." Claire had graduated college a few weeks earlier. I'd attended the ceremony, genuinely happy for her. "Yeah, I've been thinking about that," I replied. "I was planning to send her to Mexico for a week. Let her celebrate before she starts job hunting." There was a pause. Not a good pause. "Well, that's nice, but I think she needs something more substantial." I frowned. "More substantial? Mom, a week in Mexico isn't cheap." "Samantha, you know Claire's been living in your grandmother's apartment for a year now. She's used to having her own space." Her voice took on that particular tone I remembered from childhood: reasonable on the surface, demanding underneath. A young person needs somewhere to live, somewhere to build their life. My stomach tightened as I realized where this was heading. "Mom, Claire is living there rent-free already. That's a huge break. But now that she's graduated, she can keep living there permanently, right?" "She can keep living there," I interrupted. "But I'm not giving her the apartment, if that's what you're asking." Mom's voice sharpened. "Samantha, She's your sister. Family helps family. Helping with college was one thing. This is different. How is it different? You have your own apartment. You don't need two places. I took a deep breath. I don't need to explain my financial decisions to you. The Mexico trip is a generous gift. Claire should be grateful. Grateful? Mom's voice rose. After everything we've been through as a family, this is how you repay that. Repay what, exactly? Heat rose in my chest. I've been nothing but generous to Claire. What more do you want from me? I want you to do the right thing. I want you to help your sister get started in life. She is getting help. Free housing is help. Mom was quiet for a moment. Then, think about it, Samantha. Really think about what's right here. I have thought about it. Mexico trip. That's my final offer. She hung up without saying goodbye. I sat there staring at my phone, feeling that familiar knot in my stomach I used to get as a kid, the feeling that nothing I did would ever be enough. I shook it off and went back to work, hoping that was the end of it. 2 weeks passed without contact. I figured Mom had accepted my decision. Then I saw the Facebook post. I was scrolling through my phone during lunch break when it appeared, our Christmas photo from last year, all 4 of us smiling around the tree like we were this perfect, loving family. The caption made my blood run cold. Samantha promised to give an apartment to her younger sister in honor of graduating from college. I thank God for such a generous and kind eldest daughter. I read it 3 times, thinking I must have misunderstood. But there it was, in black and white. My mother had just announced to the world that I was giving away property worth nearly $500,000, property I'd never agreed to give away. The comments were already flooding in. What a wonderful big sister. So generous. Claire is so lucky. My hands were shaking as I dialed her number. She picked up on the second ring. Hello, Samantha. Her voice was casual, almost cheerful. What the hell did you just do? I kept my voice down, conscious of being at work. I don't know what you mean. The Facebook post. You told everyone I'm giving Claire the apartment. Oh, that. Her voice was completely calm. Well, aren't you? No. I told you the Mexico trip was my final offer. I thought you might change your mind once you had time to think about it. By lying to everyone on social media? Are you insane? Now she dropped the innocent act. Her voice got cold and calculating. I posted it so you couldn't back out, Samantha. Claire's having her graduation party at Tony's restaurant this Saturday. There will be about 50 people there, family, friends, college classmates. You're going to bring the apartment deed and transfer papers, all signed and ready to go. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And if I don't, then I'll make sure everyone knows you're a liar. I'll tell them you promised Claire the apartment and then broke your word. You work in public relations, Samantha. How's that going to look when word gets around that you can't be trusted? Think your company will want to keep someone with that reputation? I was speechless. My own mother was threatening to destroy my career. You have until Saturday, Samantha. Bring the papers or deal with the consequences. She hung up. I immediately called Claire, hoping maybe she didn't know what Mom was planning. Hey, Samantha. Claire's voice was casual. Claire, did you see what Mom posted on Facebook? Yeah, I saw it. Did you know she was going to do that? There was a pause. Yeah, we talked about it. My heart sank. And you're okay with this? With her lying and trying to blackmail me? Claire actually laughed. Blackmail? Come on, Samantha. You've got 2 apartments and I've got none. It's not exactly fair. I earned my apartment. I worked for it. And you've been living rent-free in Grandma's place for a year. Yeah, and I'm grateful for the handout, but now I want something permanent. Something that's actually mine. Handout? The word stung. I paid for your college education. And I appreciated the charity, but this is different. This is about my future. She hung up too. I sat on my couch that night, staring at the ceiling. 3 people I'd called family had just revealed themselves to be complete strangers, people who thought they could manipulate and threaten me into giving up property worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. Then, despite everything, I started laughing. They thought they were so clever. They thought they had me trapped. They had no idea what they'd just started. The next morning, I went to my home office and pulled out the box of documents I'd received after Grandma's funeral. Her will, property deeds, insurance papers, things I'd barely looked at since the lawyer handed them over. I found Grandma's will and read through it carefully. The apartment Claire was living in, mine, obviously. The $150,000, mine too. But then I saw something that made me sit up straight. The property located at 764 Birch Drive. That was Mom and Rick's address. The house they'd been living in for over 20 years. According to this document, Grandma had owned it, and now I owned it. I read that section 3 times to make sure I understood correctly. The house where my mother and stepfather lived belonged to me. When Dad died, Grandma had let Mom stay there out of kindness, but it was never Mom's house. I called my lawyer, Benjamin Parker. Benjamin, it's Samantha. I need to ask about some property inheritance issues. I explained the situation, how my family was living in a house I'd inherited, how they'd been there for decades but never actually owned it. Do they have any tenant rights? I asked. Did they ever sign a lease? Pay rent? Any formal agreement? No, nothing like that. My grandmother just let them live there after my dad died. Then legally, they're what we call guests or licensees. You can ask them to leave at any time. What if I wanted to make it official? Eviction papers? We could do that. How much time do you want to give them? I thought about Saturday's party. About Mom's smug voice on the phone. About Claire calling my help charity. 30 days. I can have the papers ready by tomorrow afternoon. Same thing for the apartment your sister is staying in? Yes. Both properties. When I hung up, I felt a strange mix of dread and relief. I'd never imagined things would come to this, but they'd forced my hand. For once, I wasn't going to be the one who gave in. Saturday arrived, and I drove to Tony's restaurant feeling oddly calm. The eviction papers sat in my purse, official and final. The restaurant was decorated with balloons and a Congratulations Claire banner. About 50 people were there, just as Mom had predicted, family members I hadn't seen in years, Claire's college friends, neighbors, old family friends. Everyone was in a great mood, drinking wine and laughing. Claire was wearing a new dress, holding court with her college friends. When she saw me, she gave me a big wave and a smile that looked completely authentic. For a second, I almost felt bad about what I was going to do. Mom appeared at my elbow immediately. Samantha, you made it. Did you bring the papers? She said it quietly, but her eyes were hard as steel. We'll see, Mom. I made small talk, ate dinner, acted like everything was normal. But I could feel Mom watching me the entire time, waiting. Finally, it was time for toasts. People stood up with their wine glasses and said nice things about Claire's achievements, how proud they were, how bright her future looked. Then Mom stood up and tapped her glass with a spoon. I want to thank everyone for coming to celebrate Claire's graduation. And I have a special announcement. She looked directly at me. Claire's big sister, Samantha, wants to share some exciting news about her graduation gift. Everyone turned to look at me. All those faces, all those expectations. Mom was smiling, but her eyes were cold. I stood up slowly and looked around the room. Thanks, Mom. Actually, I do have an announcement. I pulled out my phone and opened the voice recording app, a habit from my PR work. I thought a lot about Claire's graduation gift this week, and I decided not to give her anything. The collective gasp was audible. Claire's face went white. Mom's mouth dropped open. You see, my family tried to blackmail me into giving Claire my inherited apartment. They posted lies on social media to try to force my hand. They threatened my career. So I thought everyone should hear what really happened. I pressed play on my phone. Mom's voice filled the restaurant. I posted it so you couldn't back out, Samantha. Claire's having her graduation party at Tony's restaurant this Saturday. You're going to bring the apartment deed and transfer papers, all signed and ready to go. Then I'll make sure everyone knows you're a liar. You work in public relations, Samantha. How's that going to look when word gets around that you can't be trusted to keep your promises? You could hear a pin drop in that restaurant. When the recording finished, I put my phone away and pulled out the eviction papers. Mom's hands were shaking as she read them. "What is this?" she whispered. "Eviction notice for the house you live in. The house that actually belongs to me, inherited from Grandma. You have 30 days to find a new place." I turned to Claire, who was crying now, and handed her identical papers. "Same for you. 30 days to get out of the apartment." I looked around the room at all the shocked faces. "Since everyone's here, I thought you should know the truth. That house they live in? It's mine. Has been for a year. I let them stay there because I thought we were family. Turns out I was wrong." Mom was staring at the papers like she couldn't believe what she was seeing. "This can't be legal. Call a lawyer if you want. But I think you'll find it's completely legal." I smiled at Claire. "Congratulations on your graduation, sis. Welcome to adulthood." Then I walked out of that restaurant and didn't look back. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. My phone started ringing immediately. Mom, Claire, Rick, Mom again. I declined every call. By the time I got inside my apartment, I had 12 missed calls and my voicemail was full. I didn't listen to any of them. I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my couch, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in my adult life, I felt completely free from my family's expectations and manipulations. The next morning, someone was pounding on my door at 8 a.m. I looked through the peephole and saw all three of them standing there. Mom's eyes were red and puffy. Claire looked like she hadn't slept. Rick just looked uncomfortable. I opened the door but didn't invite them in. "What do you want?" Mom immediately started crying. "Samantha, honey, I'm so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I was just trying to help Claire get started in life, and I went about it all wrong. You tried to blackmail me. I know, and I'm sorry. But please, you can't kick us out of our home. We've lived there for 20 years. It was never your home. It was Grandma's home, and she let you stay there out of kindness." Rick stepped forward. "Samantha, be reasonable. We can't just find a new place in 30 days. Should have thought about that before you tried to steal my apartment." Claire was crying too. "Where am I supposed to go? I don't have a job yet. Figure it out. You're an adult now, remember?" Mom grabbed my arm. "Please, Samantha. We're family. Family forgives each other." I pulled my arm away. "Family doesn't blackmail each other either. What if we paid you rent?" Rick asked suddenly. "We could sign a lease, pay you every month." At least he was trying to be practical. "How much?" Mom jumped in quickly. "Whatever's fair. We just need somewhere to live." I thought about it. Market rate for that house would be about $1,500 a month, but they'd caused me a lot of stress. $1,200 a month for the house. Claire can stay in the apartment for $1,000 a month. Claire's eyes went wide. $1,000? I don't have a job. Then you better find one fast, or move back in with Mommy and Daddy. Mom was nodding frantically. Yes, we can do $1,200. When would we start paying? First payment is due in 1 week. Miss a payment, you're out immediately. No second chances. Rick looked relieved. That's fair. We can do that. Claire was still crying. I can't afford $1,000 a month. I shrugged. Then move out. Mom turned to Claire. You'll move back home, honey. It'll be fine. I need lease agreements signed by tomorrow, I continued. And I want first month's rent up front. Cash. They all nodded like their lives depended on it. True to their word, Mom and Rick signed the lease the next day and handed me $1,200 in cash. Claire packed up her stuff and moved back to her childhood bedroom, looking miserable the whole time. Within a week, I had Grandma's apartment listed for rent. I found a nice graduate student who was thrilled to pay $1,500 a month for such a great place. The extra money has been incredible, $2,700 a month. I've been using it to pay extra on my mortgage. Mom pays her rent on time every month. She transfers the money electronically so we don't have to see each other. I haven't spoken to any of them since that day they came begging at my door. A few months ago, I ran into one of Mom's neighbors at the grocery store. She recognized me and made some comment about how generous I was to let my family rent from me at such reasonable rates. I just smiled and said, "Thanks." The truth is, I don't consider them family anymore. They showed me exactly who they really are when they thought they could manipulate and threaten me. They're just tenants now, people who send me money every month. I've made new friends at work and started dating again. I joined a book club that reminds me of those evenings I spent reading with Grandma. My life is peaceful and drama-free. Sometimes I think about what Grandma would say about all this. I think she'd be proud that I stood up for myself. She always told me to be strong and not let people take advantage of my kindness. Kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, she used to say. It's just being a doormat. I learned that lesson the hard way, but I learned it well. My family tried to steal from me, and instead they ended up paying me. They thought they were so clever with their little scheme, but they forgot one important thing. I'm not that scared little girl who used to babysit for free anymore. I'm a woman who owns property and knows how to protect herself, and I sleep just fine at night knowing that. Thanks for listening, and if you liked this story, share it with others, and don't forget to comment and subscribe for more stories about finding your strength when the people closest to you show their true colors. Sometimes the hardest lessons teach us exactly what we're truly worth.